Welcome everybody, I'm Scott Hutton. Hutton Broadcasting is my family business. We own 6 radio stations here in town. We have Blue 102.9, Radio Free Santa Fe 98.1, 107.5 Outlaw Country. We have Project 105, which is a rock station, 1260, which is a progressive talk station. They're very talkative today. And 1400 ESPN. One of our commitments to the community has always been to educate not only our customers and potential customers and friends and colleagues, but we try to educate also our employees as well about marketing, branding, and how to use your positioning to better your brand in the marketplace. So what we do is we bring in speakers. This year we have Jim Glover, the idea guy. Jim works with Fortune 500 companies on positioning their brands in the marketplaces. Very, very exceptional branding guy. And then we have Jan Zimmerman. Jan wrote Social Marketing for Dummies and Web Marketing for Dummies. I guess Social Networking for Dummies.
No, marketing.
Oh, Social Marketing for Dummies, okay. So she's published a few books. She's terrific. I hope you learned something. I have a commercial I want to play for you first that we play it on the radio stations a lot. So if you listen to the stations, you'll know this spot. It's pretty funny. That's not it.
Get it. Why aren't people buying our tennis balls?
You got me.
I mean, they're fuzzy, they're yellow, they're bouncy.
Oh, no doubt about it. We have the bounciest balls in the business.
If people knew how bouncy our balls
They
are,
would be bouncing on tennis courts from North Carolina to California.
instead they buy our competitors' clearly inferior
You
balls.
smack their balls a few hundred times and the fuzz falls right off.
And soon their balls are totally bald and barely bouncy at all.
What do we need to do to get people to try our tennis balls?
We gotta get the word out.
Word out, word out. Hey, maybe we should advertise.
Now, that costs money, and we don't have much money.
So yeah, I don't want to advertise until we have more money.
Which we'll get when we sell more balls and
Make some profits.
So we don't need to advertise, we just need to wait.
For what?
For profits.
You're absolutely right.
Sometimes I'm so brilliant I actually scare myself.
Yeah, gave me goosebumps.
Can I see one?
Oh, look.
While you're waiting, your competitors aren't. They know something you don't know. It's called advertising, and it works. So get on the ball. This message brought to you by this station, the Radio Advertising Bureau, and produced by the famous Radio Ranch.
So anyway, with that, I guess we'll introduce Jim Glover. Jim, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Also, I would like to do a shout out to Scott Hutton, Hutton Broadcasting, and SantaFe.com for allowing me the opportunity to be here with you today. I really enjoy working with small business entrepreneurs. So Scott, thank you. I'm going to do that as well. Also, it's always a tough crowd right after lunch. So if you're going to nod, just sort of nod in a way that I can, not point at you. I have a question or something. Again, my name is Jim Glover. I'm the founding partner of the Idea Group of Santa Fe. We're a strategic branding and marketing company. Been around about 11 years, not nearly as long as Dave Haydick in the back. How many years, Dave?
30.
30. So I'm trying. I'm getting there. But Dave's got me beat there.
I started when I was 10, though.
Yeah. And we do a lot of work around the state of New Mexico. We work a lot with rural communities. We do strategic plans. We do branding. We work a lot in tourism. I also work with large companies, small companies, nonprofits. So you name it, we're pretty much there. And then at the start of this year, Once a Day Marketing is sort of my new endeavor. And really that was created. It's a daily video branding and marketing blog that was launched on SantaFe.com. We have over 200 video blogs since the start of the year that I've produced. So my hope is that every day you go and watch a little video clip about me trying to inspire you to brand and market. Because I know for a fact that if you spend a little time each day branding and marketing, you are going to have a more successful business. At least I think so. Alrighty, let's start. So we're going to do 3 things today. We're going to make sure you know what a brand is. And all of you have preconceived notions, and I hope when you leave here today that it's all the same, but it might be a little bit different. We're also going to try to get you to understand why branding and a brand is so important today, and today it really is critical. And then number 3 for you is to get you to understand that mind share equals market share. And we'll be talking a lot more about that today. So let's begin. Let's have some fun. We are a world essentially driven by brands. Any of you not recognize some of those logos up there? The yellow arches, anybody seen that before? We had a few people last week that, thank you. So yes, so my question to you probably is that today, Did any of you go out and frequent some brand in some way or shape or form, or maybe yesterday, or how many of you didn't actually engage a brand sometime within the last 24 hours? Last 24 hours, no brand? Sure. You're at the DoubleTree Hotel. Alrighty. So, next please. So we're going to start by asking a simple question. I want you to specifically name me the top 10 brands in the world. You have 30 seconds. No.
Cadillac, Rolls-Royce.
Starbucks, Nike,
Starbucks.
Ford.
He's doing good. All right, let's see if he's...
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola, somebody number one. IBM, Microsoft, Google, only been around since 1998. Okay, next. There's the other 5. There's that M word again. And little Apple, they just made the list this year. But I bet you next year they'll be top of the list. They seem to have a product that we all like, and a brand we certainly understand. So, the secret to everything you do in business is behind that red door. Different than that old movie Behind the Green Door, if you remember years ago. But we have a customer that you're trying to entice with your brand to make a profit. Okay? So, we can go with this door, or I can ask you right now, would you like to open door number 2? Remember, let's make a deal. We can just completely go a different direction right now, but I think we probably want to open the door. So let's take a look. What's behind it? It's your brand. And that's literally what drives the success of your organization. It's like the atom of your business. It's so small sometimes. We don't pay attention to it. You need a microscope to see it, but today we're going to give you that microscope so you really understand the significance and importance of that brand to the success of your business in the future. Next, please. So, I am a firm believer that you can brand absolutely anything. So let's take a look at Krispy Kremes. What is that? Sugar, flour, oil, and you guys will go out and find those donuts and pay a premium. It's the same sugar, flour, oil that's used in somebody else's product, but you tend to gravitate towards Krispy Kreme. Next thing, that little swoosh, what company is that?
Nike.
Nike, good. We're doing good. They use leather, they use rubber, they use glue, and they create the shoe, but they have the ability to convince us to pay a premium for those shoes because we're going to jump higher, run faster, or something, right? But it's still manufactured in the same way. Then on the far left over there, we have P&G's product of Charmin tissue. Okay, remember Mr. Whipple? Squeezably soft. That was a big step of branding history because they got us to really think about a commodity, which was toilet paper, and turned it into a brand that we would rush to the store to buy. That's pretty good branding. My final point again, if we can brand all those other things, we can brand you as well. Okay, next. So, been asking this question, nobody's got it right yet, but what is that?
Landscape.
Landscape, yeah.
Photograph.
It's a photograph, some flowers. What that is, believe it or not, is your brand. Doesn't that look good? It's beautiful. Shot at the right time. Flowers are doing the thing they should be doing. You got that blue grama grass. So this is brand identity. This is the perception of your own brand in your own mind. It's really nice, isn't it? As it should be. Now, next please. What is that?
Pixelated reality.
What's that?
That's the reality.
That is the brand in the mind of your customers. It's not quite as vivid, is it? Not quite as clear. What you think it is, there's a big difference in what they think it is. We're going to talk about why that is. There's some similarities there, but brand image is the perception of your brand in their mind. So there's various factors that go into making a brand. The foundation, which I'm not showing here, are such things as why you're in business. How many people are in business only to rip off your customers? Not many? Okay. There's values that you bring to the business. There's your core competency, the things that you're good at that you bring to the business. That becomes the foundation of the brand. But then you work really hard on your product. I'm sure you guys do. You work hard on your pricing. You work hard on where people can find your product to buy. And I'm also always amazed at how difficult sometimes businesses make that for their customers to give them money. And then there's this little area called promotion, where you share this message with your customers to come buy your product. Jan Zimmerman today is going to be talking a lot more specifically about promotion. So those are the elements, part of the marketing mix, that also make up your brand. But let's go a little deeper into what a brand truly is. What a brand is the experiences that customers have had with your product or service. Okay? Some people, that next line, think it's a slogan, they think it's a logo. And that's part of the brand, it's part of that extended identity. And in today's world, where we're getting little screens on our smartphones this big, that visual cue of the brand is ever so important, because if they see that, they know it's you, because it triggers some sort of thought process in their minds about what that brand represents. But it's not just that. It is different for every single customer out there, because they have a different experience. We've been talking about, you're going to a restaurant, you're hungry, you walk towards the front door, and there's a whole bunch of snubbed out cigarettes in front of the front door. Your perception of the brand 2 seconds before was really good, but you see this pile of cigarette butts by the front door. What just happened to your brand at that very moment?
Put in the dumper.
It went down, okay? So now you go in, you have this really good restaurant, or a really good experience, you have a great meal, then you walk out and you look down, and what's happened? All those cigarette butts are gone and cleaned up. What just happened in your mind as you're walking back to your car? Wow, this company cares enough to go out there and clean that up and make it better for me passing through this doorway. So your brand is like the New York Stock Exchange. It goes up and down based on all those personal experiences that people have. You may never even know about a particular product or service. You're having dinner with a friend, and what do they say? God, that's the worst place in town to get your car serviced. You think you're apt to call that the next day? No. You have no experience other than what somebody told you, but you now have a perception of that brand in your mind. Next, please. So, I'm going to ask you this question. What is a brand? Now, there might be a few clues in the room that will help you answer that question. So does anybody want to take a shot at what is a brand? Anybody? Any guessers? Risk takers? A brand is simply everything. That is correct. We often think it's all these little things, but it's the sum of everything. That's what a brand is. If I go and call to have my computer fixed, and I'm now talking to India, and I have not the best conversation, and then just about the time when I finally get this thing to happen the way I want it to happen, the phone clicks off, and then I scream at the loudest I've ever screamed. What happened to the brand at that point? Again, it goes down. So it's every encounter that you have. It's your people, it's your price, it's your product, everything. It's the process of buying your product. Everything is part of the brand. So good, you've got that down, everybody nod, yes? Okay, next please. So what is branding? Well, branding is that simple process of going through the effort to align what your brand identity is, that perception of what you think your company and your product is all about, with that of the customers. And you keep working at it over time to get that to line up, to come into focus, just like you would inside a microscope. Next, please. So why are brands important today? And maybe more important today than ever. Okay? We have a gazillion choices of people trying to get our money. Every single day there's some sort of offer out there of people enticing us to give them our money. So we tend to gravitate to what we know. And I've been citing this example. Let's say you're on a highway someplace and you get off the freeway to get gas and you're hungry, and there's a McDonald's there and there's a dive. And next to the dive there's 50 cars. And you have $10. What do you think typically is going to happen? Where do you think the typical consumer will go with their $10? McDonald's, unfortunately, right? They don't know that that restaurant has the best burrito in the world. No branding has ever taken part, or it's taken place for them to understand that point. So they buy their McDonald's and they move on down the road, missing out on that great opportunity. We gravitate to what we know. We want to minimize risk. We want to maximize our return, so to speak, related to the expectations we have from that brand. Okay, next. So here's a little chart that we call the explosions of choice. And you can see there's a lot of things for us to choose. Like if we want to try to get to all the websites, I did this just last night. I went to the last website of the 644 million that I hadn't seen before, so I can now check that off my list. But there's a lot of things to do out there, and we've been talking a lot about dental floss. How many choices are there to buy for dental floss? 64. We've come to a conclusion here at Hutton that that's the reason that the world is coming to a grinding halt, Because every day, people have to go into Walgreens and spend hours trying to determine the dental floss that they want to buy. So imagine how long it takes to make an important decision, that like buying one of your products or services. So let's have a little fun here. Want you to think about the top cola brand in the world. I've already given you a big clue, so if you miss this one, something's really wrong. All right, so shout it out. What do you think is the top brand? Coca-Cola. All right, let's see. You guys are very good. Now, what do you think the second top brand in the cola world is?
Pepsi.
Pepsi. I've heard of that one before. There it is. Now it gets a little bit more difficult. What's the third?
RC.
RC.
RC. Survey says RC. Very good. Some of the sessions we've had, they couldn't quite get number 3. Point being, even as big as those 3 brands are, 1 and 2 is very much in the top of your mind. That's mind share. So when it comes down to making a purchase, something pops into your head and you go and you make that purchase. Let's try another one. Okay, toothpaste. What's the top
Crest.
brand? Crest. Let's see. Very good. She was at yesterday's session. No, I'm kidding. Next, what do you think is the second one?
Colgate.
Colgate. All right, now, third.
Sensodyne.
What's that? Sensodyne?
Aquafresh.
Aquafresh? Arm & Hammer. Go for it.
No clear winners.
So again, even as big as Tom's is, not one of you mentioned it. So the point being, mind share. It's ever important to have mind share when you are in the marketplace. Now these are the big boys, right? They know how to brand, they know how to market. So it doesn't probably work in Santa Fe. What do you think? Well, I'm not so sure about that. Let's go to the next example. Now I want you to think about what restaurant in Santa Fe offers up the best. Oh, Maria's, I didn't get the sentence out. All right, let's see. Very good. Okay. How about number 2 for margaritas in Santa Fe? Did somebody?
I like the Shed.
All right, every Tomasitas. And the Shed. There you go. So, even on a local level, branding works. Why do you think these companies are successful? Because they spend so much time and so much attention towards branding. It so happens, by the way, Maria's and Tomasitas are Hutton clients, just FYI. Now, go one more. So what is the relationship between mind share and market share? Well, when you have top of mind and people think about you when they're ready to buy a margarita, they give you their money. That becomes the market share. That becomes the profit that you're seeking. And then that's what you want to hang on to and continue to grow, is that market share. And branding will do that. So what you're trying to do, your objective here, now you're all branding experts because you know what a brand is. You're trying to be number 1 in the mind of your customers for that one thing that you do best. Don't have to be all sorts of other things. You just want to be number 1 in the mind of your customers at the time they're making that purchase decision. Okay, you need to differentiate. And I love this book. Jack Trout is a marketing guru. I'm going to cover part of the title. It says differentiate or die. Now I'm just the messenger here. This isn't my book. But probably that will happen. It might take you a long time, but eventually you might have that outcome. So what you're trying to do is make sure that you do differentiate, that you provide an overt benefit, which is that, you know, when you're marketing to people, they always want to know what's in it for me. And your overt benefit is that thing that will drive them to buy your product more than anything else. That's that one benefit they're truly seeking out. So let's take a quick look at how this process works. Believe it or not, that's the average number of ads you get hit by every single day. 5,000 ads. And so we've got a pretty good filter system already. And we're kind of like Teflon. But what happens after a while, because boom, 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 this bombardment, that thing is always going on, some of it starts to stick. So you begin recognizing some brands. You don't really know where you heard about them, saw them, read, whatever. But then, with a little bit more of this action coming your way, you start to recall a few of these brands. Now you can list a few. But what happens, and the way you make your dollars, again, is that at that purchase decision time, you need to make sure that your brand is firmly in their mind. Think about a mattress company that sells mattresses. If somebody buys a mattress every 8 years, if you aren't there at that moment that they're planning to buy a mattress, how long do you have to wait? Another 8 years. So you don't know when they're going to make that decision. That's why you have to be branding constantly, so that at that time when they're ready to dole out the money, they're thinking of you. Oh, there was one thing that said brand dominance. Final point there is that a long-term goal would be the only brand in a category that somebody thinks about at that time. I'm sure Maria's would love that, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen in Santa Fe. I think Tomasitas will be around for a while. Next. All right, so this is an example of all the possible customers that you might have in your particular category, wherever your former business is. This is the non-mature category for a product or service, meaning that nobody really dominates. Nobody has top of mind or is leading all the categories. Okay? This means you have opportunity through your branding effort to stake out some serious turf. Now, what happens is that if you aren't branding, there's a lot of undecideds. How can they choose your brand if they know nothing about your brand? You might have a few blue mooners who are just stumbling along and they see your product however it happens and they buy your product. You might have some zombies. Zombies are really good. Zombies like your product, however they find you, until something happens, like they smell new blood in another direction. They're not very loyal. They'll just eat anybody. Yeah, they'll just go in the other direction. What you're really trying to cultivate are brand lovers, people that will go out of their way to use your brand, refer your brand to other people, and so forth. So that's really what you're trying to do. What we're going to do next for you is we're going to show you a little video clip that gives you a better sense of the undecided. Because these are people that really are looking for answers. And what you're trying to do as a branding expert is to give the answers to their questions. Let's take a look.
This election will determine the future of our country, and this election will be determined by the undecided voter.
It seems that more than 96% of voters have already made up their minds about this election. Well, I guess some of us are just a little bit harder to please. We're not impressed by political spin or 30-second sound bites. Before you get our vote, you're gonna have to answer some questions. Questions like,
when is the election? How soon do we have to decide?
What are the names of the two people running? And be specific.
Who is the president right now? Is he or she running? Because if so, experience is maybe something we should consider.
How long is a president's term of office? 1 year? 2 years? 3 years? Or life?
It's for life. Frankly, we're not comfortable with that. We don't need to be electing a dictator.
What happens if the president dies? Has anyone thought about who would replace him? What's your plan, gentlemen?
Can women vote? Because if not, as a woman, I've got a big problem with that. And by the way, if men can't vote, in my opinion, that's just as wrong.
You hear a lot about our dependence on foreign oil, but just what is oil? What is it used for?
Can a woman have a baby just from French kissing? If you burp, fart, and sneeze at the same time, will you die?
Where's the power cord?
we are America's undecided voters. There's still a lot we don't know.
And we want answers.
Low Information Voters of America is responsible for the content of this advertising.
SNL.
So I think you get my point that you need to spend a little time branding and marketing to educate your potential customers. So in a mature market in a particular category, like we were talking about with Maria's and Tomasitas, what's happened is that they have captured market share through their branding efforts. So now all of a sudden you see their brand over there. They have a lot of brand lovers, don't they? People that will go out of their way to buy their margaritas and take friends and talk about it. They also have a lot of zombies. Maybe those zombies will go back and forth between Maria's and Tomasitas, but they're pretty good customers as well. So zombies are good to have. But you notice that the blue mooners and the undecided, they're way, way down, and that's what you're really trying to do, is that you want that customer base that's seeking your product to be thinking about you all the time. Next. So it's not just about awareness. Oftentimes marketers think, boy, I just got to let everybody know about my product. And that's not really the case, because not everybody is necessarily interested in your product. Okay? So you want to make sure that it is relevant and that it resonates, that message will actually sink in. Next, please. How many people have heard of Ballet shoes? A couple of you, okay. Ballet shoes is a big global shoe manufacturer. They have very high-end shoes. I'm not typically spending $395 to knock around Santa Fe in my shoes. Probably some of you aren't. So despite all that marketing and branding they're doing, it's not very relevant and doesn't resonate with you, does it? So the same thing needs to be true. When you are sharing your message, you want to make sure it's falling on people who want to hear it. Next. So how does this message get out there? So you've got your compelling message down here. First is reach, and that's that population out there that you're trying to share your message with. Okay? It could be Santa Fe, it could be the world, based on whatever your product might be. But your frequency is how often you are sharing that message with them. And I'm going to show you just here in a second that it's important to be sharing that message quite a bit. And then consistency, it's important to be sharing the same message over and over again, because we're all a little thick, all right? So if I do this, what comes to mind?
Allstate.
Allstate. Okay, I didn't have to say anything. All of a sudden you're thinking insurance. They've been saying you're in good hands with Allstate since probably 2000 BC. That message has been consistent, it hasn't wavered, it hasn't changed. So oftentimes, once you lock into something that's working, my recommendation, of course, is to stick with that, because that will eventually get into the minds of your customers the way that you want. I'm sorry.
Allstate.
Yeah, Allstate. So this is kind of the landscape of where you could spend some of your advertising dollars around Santa Fe. You've got radio, which of course Hutton's involved in. You've got the internet, they also have santafe.com. But you've got such things like magazines. How many people have advertised in some of the Santa Fe local magazines? A few of you, okay. How about newspapers? Imagine a few more of you, okay. How about direct marketing? Was anybody up at midnight last night calling people, asking them to buy your product or service? No, nobody was doing any direct calling last night. Outdoor, anybody got any billboards on the freeway? Cable or broadcast, anybody running any television spots right now? So there's places that you can spend your money, for sure, to get your message out, but you have to think about it wisely. I'm going to share with you the rule of 27. Anybody ever heard of that rule? What you're trying to do is you're trying to, again, get that brand in the minds of potential customers. So within the rule of 27, there's the 1/3, which means if you're trying to get one good impression in the mind of a customer about your brand, you need to put it out there 3 times. So let's think about the Santa Fe Reporter for a moment. You put an ad in Reporter 1 week, they don't see it. Put it in Santa Fe Reporter the next week, they don't see it. Put it in the 3rd week, maybe they see it. Next, please. But part of the study that was done says that you have to have 9 of those solid impressions before the brand sinks in. So those of you that aren't asleep, 9 times 3 is 27. So that's why you have to give some serious consideration to where you're putting your marketing dollars so that you get that reach, that frequency, and that consistency. So we're going to start wrapping up here. So you got your customer, they're getting ready to share their dollars with you. So if you've been branding, your brand's out there, and what happens next? It now is stuck to their brain, which is a very good thing, and the results, you get some of that green. That's a good thing. Now let's imagine that you aren't branding, or you haven't been branding as well as you should, or as often as you should. What is the results now? They're still going to make their purchase. They're just going to make their purchase with your competitor. Go ahead. So we're going to wrap this up now with this final slide. In that non-mature market, that category where you probably have an opportunity to capture some mind share and market share, what does branding do? Go ahead. It allows you to stake out your claim. It gets you top of mind, and they start thinking about you, and they start buying your product or service. Now let's say you're Maria's. Do you live on your laurels and you stop advertising? You already said they're advertising with Hutton. No, what happens? They continue branding to defend their position in the marketplace. So the final thing here is that branding is an ongoing process. It never stops. In fact, you are not allowed to go to sleep ever again because you will be branding 24/7. So that's really what you're trying to do, because it takes a long time to get that brand the way you want, like Allstate. And then the last question I have for you, what is a brand?
Everything.
Everything. Well, thank you very much. I am that branding guy, and there's my contact information. And I highly encourage you to go to santafe.com, type in once a day in their keyword search box, and then follow the blogs. I have over 200 on there right now, and hopefully it will inspire you to think about branding and marketing. Yes?
Those blogs, are they archived and accessible back to the beginning?
I'm the marketing and branding guy, of course. You can find them by any of the 7 P's of marketing. There's all sorts of ways you can. So yes, you can. And I encourage you to go from day one, and it's kind of been a linear process. Now I'd like to introduce my esteemed colleague, Jan Zimmerman.
Thank you all for staying here. Jim's going to be a hard act for me to follow, so I hope I can keep everybody awake. My pattern line is not quite as good. I don't have quite so many one-liners as he does, but I'll do my best. I'm the author of Web Marketing for Dummies and Social Media Marketing All-in-One for Dummies, second edition of which comes out Monday. Yay! After 6 months of working from midnight to 6 a.m. every night, I'm really glad to have that book coming out. I also am the owner of Watermelon Mountain Web Marketing in Albuquerque, and we provide web marketing services, all kinds of online marketing services to businesses of all sizes and types everywhere around the country. So I'm happy to do that. And what I'm going to talk about today is why market online. I'm going to talk to you about comparing paid advertising to social media and what you can accomplish with paid advertising. And lastly, what makes a good ad. I'll do my best to tie this in to Jim's branding presentation so you can understand, you know, when he had that slide about a marketing mix and there was this little thing down here that said promotion, that's the piece I'm talking about. I'm talking about how do you get that message out to a target audience in a consistent manner. So that's what we're going to talk about. And the very first question before we even talk about this marketing mix is I want to ask you why you would bother marketing online at all. Any ideas why you might bother marketing online?
It's it has the most eyeballs looking at it.
It has the most eyeballs looking at it. You got it. 85% of all adults are now online. So if you are going to try to catch people, try to get some sort of mind share, you better catch them where they are doing what it is they're doing. And what's happening now is that online advertising and online media consumption is taking up more and more of people's time, and it is particularly taking time away from print and TV, which is very interesting. So it's not taking time away from radio, which Vera's going to talk about, but it is taking time away from print and TV. And so those are the areas that you see when you look at how advertising dollars are spending. Those are the places that are losing ad dollars, and online is increasing. Okay, this is what an online marketing mix looks like, and it seems at first to be a little intimidating. Okay, the only thing you need to be intimidated by is the first box. Okay, you cannot do online marketing without having a website or a blog or a landing page or something with your own domain name on it that you can market. Because you do not want to say in an ad, I am at facebook.com/this is my website /2478913. Okay? You need to be able to consistently direct people to your own web presence. And that's what search engines are looking for. They don't really do well when you're a page on somebody else's website. And it's one of the issues around using only social media for advertising. Let me start over there at around 1 o'clock and just talk for a minute about what your online marketing options are. The important thing to know is that you do not have to do all of them. You should do at least one of them. I recommend you do 2 of them. You don't have to start them both at the same time. But there are a million different solutions to any kind of marketing problem. It's going to depend perhaps where your audience is and what you like to do. So for instance, I have clients that I could never get to write a paragraph a week, let alone a paragraph a day, let's say, for a blog, but they will tweet because it's 140 characters and they don't have to spell. Honest. Oh, I can do that. I can do that. I can leave out falls. I'm cool. I'm good. All right. So e-newsletters are an old-fashioned thing. They work with older audiences in particular. And this is where people have opted in. So one of the things that a newsletter gives you, if you have an opt-in newsletter, is a very qualified base of prospects. They are already interested in your product. And the second thing it gives you is the opportunity to push information at them so you can control when they get it, as opposed to waiting for them to go and pull it off an internet or off an ad. So it's got some value. Pay-per-click ads. These are the little ads along the right-hand column of search engine results. There's some other places where you find pay-per-click ads as well. And these are generally, people are looking for something. They're typing in a keyword, and then they see, oh, you're selling this. You know, some people will say, you know, Nike's online, and every Nike dealer in the world shows up in the results list on advertising online. SEO, natural search marketing, search engine optimization. When you look at a search engine, you've got that narrow column of paid ads on the right, you've got the wide column of organic search results on the left. Now, SEO is time consuming. It doesn't cost dollars, it costs time, but we have a little problem because, as Jim pointed out, there are now 644,000,001 websites out there, and you have to compete against all of them. And we had somebody here from St. John's in an earlier session. So his students might be okay. If you're doing doctoral research, you go to page 2 of search engine results, but they're the only people I know who do. So the problem with coming up, and forget ever coming up on one keyword term, those spots are like forever taken. Even phrases like turquoise jewelry, for those of you who happen to be jewelry makers in New Mexico, that's tough to get presence there on the first page. So SEO has a place, and I'm going to share with you a couple of tips later on, including one right now, about how to goose your search engine results. How many of you do press releases? Any do press release? Okay, press releases in general are a wonderful way to get relatively inexpensive publicity, and most people do them in a traditional way offline. Do them online, post them on something like pitchengine.com, which redistributes them to all the news services online. I mean, there's paid versions of how to do this that get you even more. They dump you into 10,000 reporters' mailboxes. But online press releases are absolutely loved by search engines because they think, oh, these people must be important. Somebody's written something about them. And so if you post your press releases online, you goose your natural search results without having to optimize a single page. Isn't that nice? Okay, so press releases, pitchengine.com has a free option for 30 days. Just do it. Be done with it. Okay, the last two over on the right-hand side are what I really want to spend some time talking about today. One is social media, and the other is paid banners. Paid banners or display ads are real easy to tell apart from pay-per-click ads. Banner ads have pretty pictures in them. Not the little tiny pictures, like on Facebook ads, but big pictures. Okay, let's take a look at the next slide. There are now a lot of commonly used social media. It's amazing that 5 years ago there was no such thing as social media. Okay, all right, there was, you know, Zuckerberg was at Harvard and he was busy trying to find a girlfriend and all that sort of stuff. But beyond that, this is a new phenomenon, and that's how fast the internet changes. So what you want to be looking at is the fact that, oh, this looks like a lot of wonderful opportunities for reaching people, because I got all these people who are spending all this time doing social media. First of all, what makes media social? Why isn't it like an ad or like your webpage?
Shared between friends.
Shared between friends. The essence of social is that it's not you talking to yourself in the mirror, okay? The essence of social media is there is a dialogue, there's a conversation, it is not a monologue. And this is both the beauty and the problem with social media. The beauty of social media is that you can hear what your customers or prospects are saying that they want. You can respond to their problems. You can initiate a communication that starts to build some brand loyalty, which was one of those things that Jim was talking about. So that's important. But what you can't do with social media is target your market. And that's, we'll go to the next slide, that's one of the main limitations of it. You've got 1 billion people on Facebook. You want to reach 45,000 homeowners because you're a plumbing company in Santa Fe County. How do you find with your Facebook page 45,000 homeowners in Santa Fe County? Well, guess what? You don't. You have to drive them to your Facebook page. At which point you may as well just drive them to your website and be done with it, because your website gives you the opportunity to present and tell your story completely. The other thing that's really important about social media is that you cannot control the message. It's a dialogue, and there's no predicting what somebody else is going to say. You know, it's like doing a town hall meeting in a presidential debate. You have no idea what's going to come out of somebody's mouth who's in the audience. And that happens to people more often than you might think on social media. And they find themselves having to respond constantly to what somebody else has said. Very time consuming, and damage control can become, you know, you get one aggravated customer or one aggravated client, and they can do a lot of damage very quickly if you're not monitoring stuff all the time. And that goes to the second point with social media. This is not like you put up your ad and, you know, it just sits there and does its thing for you. Social media, minimum 2 hours per week per channel. So 2 hours per week for Facebook, 2 hours per week for Twitter, 2 hours per week for LinkedIn, and pretty soon you're doing one whole night without any sleep. Because it takes that kind of time to be paying attention to what's happening on social media. And a lot of people think, oh, it's because I have to create so much content for social media. It's the listening. My mother used to say you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. That means you should be listening twice as much as you talk. And anybody, I'm sure other people's mothers said the same thing. I am sure of this. This was not original with my mother. But you should be, and it's a test for you of how effective your social media channels are. If other people are not posting twice as often as you are, then you are not using the medium as effectively as a social mechanism as you can. So it's a real good kind of rule of thumb that you can look at to say, is my social media working for me the way I want it to? What you find with social media is that rather than being a source of prospects, you can use it as a destination. You can use it to have these conversations with prospects and clients. There's one company that's in my next book that actually, honest to God, they posted a discussion on Facebook about whether their stuffed animal should be black and brown or it should be blue and white, and they had like 400 people who weighed in on this question. Like, I mean, to me, it's like, people care about this? And the answer is the people who were buying their stuffed animals, they cared. They were voting. So that's great. Did they care which color they did? Nah, it was like painting the big eye. You know, remember it was about 10 years ago, I don't know if you remember, we had a choice between 2 colors of blue and 2 colors of brown. That's basically what they did, but it worked. What social media is good for is branding. It's all that stuff that Jim was talking about. It's good for customer loyalty, it's good for customer retention, it's good for building relationships, it's good for customer support, it's good for soliciting opinions, it's good for a million things. But for finding new prospects, For that, you're gonna have to look at advertising. And one of the reasons is that when people are on social media, even if they're following your brand and they're a follower for your business, they really aren't there to be always looking to buy. What they're there to do, if they're on Facebook or they're tweeting, they're trying to communicate with their friends or see their grandkids' pictures, or they're trying to figure out what concert they're gonna go to the next night. So what you have is you're trying to reach people who are really particularly engaged somewhere else. And for advertising to work in that environment, or for prospecting to work in that environment, it's very difficult. So there was this fantasy that was going to happen in social media, is that people would recommend a product to their friends. That happens maybe one time out of 100,000 posts. Okay, so this is not a really reliable form of viral marketing. Every once in a while something might catch, but it's, one time out of a million or whatever. So you can't rely on social media as this idea. I mean, it was a nice fantasy. And then they even started on Facebook and on Twitter to try to interrupt the feeds, the messaging stream, with advertisements. And the communities rose up in such horror that they all pulled back and said, ooh, we can't do this.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm busy, you know, following this communication or reading all these things on this hashtag, and I don't want to know about this stuff. And they had to take it down, which is part of why Facebook's stock price fell, because they can't figure out how to sell ads. Next. Okay. Yeah. Look, I don't want to take a lot of time because I know we're kind of tight for time here for today, but just real quick, how many of you are doing any kind of paid advertising, either pay-per-click or banner advertising online? And what kind of business do you have? What's your business? And what do you make or sell? Herbal creams and lotions. Okay. Nice product line. They effective for you? Not really. Okay. Well, come talk to me. Maybe I can help you find a way to make them more effective for you. And how many of you have some form of social media presence? I don't care if for your business, not for yourself. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. About a quarter of you. Okay. Have any of you started to experiment with mobile marketing? This is stuff that's going to show up on cell phones, either a premium ad in search results or a small ad on somebody else's mobile website. How many of you have your own mobile website? Okay, you heard it here first. Over the next 2 to 5 years, mobile marketing is going to be where it's at, and you need to be thinking about this. Because there are people who are saying in 5 years that we are going to be untethered from the desktop computer. Everything is going to be tablets, everything is going to be smartphones. The old way we had of doing computing is going to change, which means that you are going to be marketing to people who are increasingly making decisions in a very short time frame. There are a lot of impulse buyers who are out there on mobile. I got to find the cheapest place to buy gas that's within half a mile because my tank is empty. I need to find somebody else who sells this pair of shoes, whether it's Bally or wherever, Prada, whatever it is, but you've got to find people who are your decision-making window. It's not going to be 8 years like for a mattress. It's 90 seconds. They get in the car, they say, let's go buy a mattress. Oh, who's close? Ding, 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 on their mobile phone, and that's how they're going to decide where they're going to buy. So your presence in mobile media and marketing yourself to be ready for that is going to be one of the next challenges coming up. This is to keep you from being bored doing marketing. Next. Okay, so what does online advertising offer you compared to social media? One is a very targeted market, because if you pay attention to what you're doing, you can find an extremely targeted audience. Number two, you can integrate it easily with other advertising, whether it's radio or print or whatever, because you can drive people to your online presence very easily. And if you're not sure how to do this with redirects and tracking URLs, come see me, because it's really easy to figure that out. And you can co-promote it. Just remember, you see all these little, we call them chiclets. You see all these little icons, one with the T and the one with the F, and you know, pretty soon I think we should be spelling out respect, but anyway, we don't have the right social media to spell that yet. But the whole point is that you can connect all your media with everything else, and that actually helps build an audience for you. Next. Okay, what really doesn't, what always surprises me when I work with people in terms of online marketing is that they're really whizzes at the kind of marketing they're already doing, and then they think they should forget it all because, oh my God, this is a new technology. And what I really want to emphasize for you guys is what you already know about marketing is still true. Nothing has changed, and what you want to do is think strategically about what you're trying to accomplish. You wouldn't take an expensive series of print ads without having a start date and an end date, and know what the audience is, and know what your message is, know if you're going to change the message partway through your advertising flight. You would know all these things. Same thing when you're doing online advertising. The other thing that's really important, and which you would always do in print or any other advertising you're doing, is target different ads for different audiences with different messages. So let's just take a quick look, because one thing I will tell you, every one of us with 5,000 ads a day is an expert at decoding ads. Okay, we may not be teaching our kids to read and write, but man, we're teaching them about advertising. So let's take a look at this ad for Hotel Santa Fe, Santa Fe's only Native American owned hotel. Tell me who that ad is aimed at. Who's the target market for that ad?
Tourists.
Tourists. Which tourists? Are you talking people from Albuquerque coming up, people in the Drive area, people nationally, people internationally? Which tourists?
National and international.
National and international because?
Because that's what tourists are. They're the out-of-towners coming here to visit.
They're the out-of-towners coming here to visit. What's special about the message in this ad that's particularly appealing to national and international tourists?
Some folks are particularly attracted to this region of the world because of the Native American population.
Right. They are looking for an experience. You're able to piggyback on a reputation for New Mexico that has been actually cultivated by the state and a lot of other people about this is a place to go for
Fred
this
Harvey.
and Fred Harvey for this Native American experience. I mean, it's why the Dude Ranches were an attraction, just like the Native Americans. The cowboy and Indian mythology in Canada, Japan, and the UK and Germany is astonishing. And other parts of the country. If they live in Colorado, or they live in Arizona, or they live in Texas, they already know about the Native American experience because it's part of their daily life. So that ad is probably not targeted at people who are in the Drive market. Okay. What age range is this targeted at?
Retired folk.
Retired folk. Because?
They have the time to travel. They may have they may be able to cover their expenses for longer term vacations.
Okay. Santa Fe as a whole does get an older tourist market. We know that. They get 50 and up in the tourist market. Even if you didn't know that, how would you know that this ad is targeted at an older tourist? Would a 20 to 30-year-old find this ad appealing? No.
They're gonna have a couple of young people, running around and more sedate, I guess.
It's sedate. It's sedate. Okay. What about gender? Any idea whether this is aimed at men or women?
Because of the purple.
You think maybe the color has an impact? Okay. And therefore you think it's aimed at?
Women.
Women? Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. Yes, it is aimed at women. And there's several ways that you know that it's aimed at women. First of all, if you happen to be in the tourism market, you know that just as in cars and most other consumer purchases, women in the end drive the decision. Women make almost 100% of all bed and breakfast reservations. They're going to pull some of the people who might make a B&B reservation to make a hotel reservation. And probably I'm going to guess that apart from business trips, in terms of vacation trips, women are probably making about 80% of the decisions about where we're going to stay. Not necessarily about everything they're going to do, but about where they're going to stay. The whole thing is aimed at having an experience. You have soft colors, you have the sort of romantic lighting about, why we have a Plains Indian, okay, yeah, we have some Apache tribes here. But, the whole thing here is, this is an American experience. By the way, you can't stay in that teepee, you can only have dinner in that teepee. You want to live or stay overnight in a Native American abode, I think you have to go out towards Chaco because some of the Navajos were letting people stay in hodens that they were no longer living in. Did you have a question?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, so look at how much you can tell from looking at that ad, which means that if you know that and you give your graphic designer, your ad designer, that kind of information, if they are good at marketing communications, they will construct an ad that's going to appeal to the market that you are trying to reach. That is really important. Next. And one of the things you can see, here's a company that certainly is thinking strategically. They keep their brand identity with their colors, with their logo type. You know that they're all for the same thing. There are very specific, there's some messages that are repeated all the time. about specializing in seasonal Spanish and Mediterranean cuisine. One is aimed at catering, one is aimed at entertainment in the taberna, one is aimed at cooking demonstrations and culinary classes. So, but they're all related. You all know that you're holding this brand identity with a targeted message. Next. Okay, so there's two kinds of ads that you can run. You can run the kinds of ads that Jim likes to talk about, the branding ads. So here what you're trying to do is to do something that triggers all of that, that instant moment of recognition for all the other branding you've been doing. And it doesn't all have to be in the same medium. You could be doing ads on the radio, you could be doing ads in print, you could be doing pieces, rack cards, you could be doing a bunch of things. You keep your logo type, and you keep your logo. That's part of the immediate graphic recognition of your brand. So that's always needs to be part of a branding ad. You have perhaps your distinctive marketing tag that is repeated. Oh, remember Jim talked about consistency? Over and over and over again. They see the same message. Okay? You do not try and close a sale from this ad. In fact, these kinds of ads, if you do branding ads, you should not expect high click-through rates. Because what you're aiming for here is mind share. You are not aiming for a transaction. And in any case, they wouldn't complete a transaction on the ad anyway. So this is what branding ads look like. They can be extremely effective, even though you don't see that immediate click-through rush. The other kind of advertising that you can do online are called sales ads or calls to action ads. And these are ads that are referenced to a specific product or service, like all winter beer. Sales promotion is in here, 40 to 50% off. And then there's something here that says it's got a call to action. In this case, it's the call to action is get it while it lasts. How do you know if something is a call to action? Well, one way is, for those of you who remember your junior high school grammar, it has an imperative verb in it. You know, one of those things that should have the word you in front of it. And the other test is this something that I would tell my children? As in, make your bed. Get over here right now. Okay? That's a call to action. So if that resonates with you, then you've got a call to action ad. Generally, these kinds of ads are targeted to a specific audience, and you are going to try to be moving people closer and closer to a purchase. And I'm just wondering, because it is really warm in here, can we open the back door a little bit for some fresh air? Maybe that'll help. I think it's quiet. Okay, next. Finally, you can't complete a transaction on an ad. So it's really, really important where you take people to, what page you land on. So a couple of things are really important about landing page quality. One is it should share the look of the ad. In other words, it's holding on to your brand identity. Secondly, it fulfills the promise of the ad. If you go to Mountain Sports and instead of getting an ad about winter goods, you're taken to a page for running gear, you're going to be pretty pissed off. Bye-bye brand value. Okay. And thirdly, and this is true about everything you do online, the more clicks you take, the smaller your audience gets. You want to take your visitors not to your homepage in most cases, but as close as possible to what that ad is about. And the reason is that every time somebody has to click, half your audience disappears. So you have this, you know, this isn't the hockey puck that they look for with venture capital. This is the other kind of hockey puck. Starts high, goes low, and it drops off very, very fast. So
you want them click and add to cart.
You want them click and add to cart. In fact, the rule of thumb is 2 clicks to buy. That's how fast you get them to add to cart if you have a cart on your site. That's what works. Isn't it nice to know you can have all these statistics on websites? And by the way, it is absolutely important that you have your website collecting statistics. If you do not currently have your website collecting statistics, or you don't know, when you leave here, you're going to call your website programmer and you're going to say, do I have Google Analytics on my site? If not, put it there. And if so, tell me how to go and look at what's going on my website. Because that's the only way you're going to know if you've managed to put your website to work for you successfully. Next. Okay, finally, we want to look at what makes a good ad. 40% is the audience, 40% is the offer, 20% is the creative. And this is it may seem a little counterintuitive, but as we go through the next slides, I think you'll see why. Next. Okay, this is your Santa Fe neighbor, right? So you want to reach a guy with this kind of interest, you want to target to that market. Okay? And you've really got to know your customers. If you don't know what your customers do or what sites they like to visit online, just ask them. You would be amazed at how happy they will be to tell you. Next, target your audience. You can target by interest area, by geographical region, by demographics, by contextual reference, and that means that you have an ad surrounded by content that's appealing to you. So this one is obvious, the residence special dinner. Well, what about that ad? Who's the Bishop's Lodge ad targeted to?
Families.
Families, absolutely. Kids summer camp, all right? So it's a local ad targeted towards kids summer camp. Next. 40% is the offer. You want people to click through on your ad, they gotta feel that there's a reason for them to do it. Your ad is answering the most important question in marketing, what's in it for me? It's the only question most people have time to ask. It's the only one to which they want the answer. So if they are in the market for golf, they know that a foursome for the price of 3 is a good deal. They know what's a good deal for a spa pass or a spa membership. So it doesn't have to have absolutely something spectacular. On the other hand, if we go to the next slide, we know that you can always use marketing's 4-letter word starting with F, which is free. Okay, and I don't care what people say, and we might have an interesting conversation. There's a number of other marketing people in this audience as to whether or not free matters when you have wealthy Santa Feans, but I'm convinced it's part of our lizard brain.
Signature?
In the spa sanctuary? Okay.
Signature treatment. Enjoy a complimentary lunch with any.
A signature, I have no idea what a signature
Is it a misspelling? Signature.
Oh, signature. They just
Mis-
misspelled
mis-
it.
misspelled
Yeah,
signature.
it's supposed to be signature.
Good proofreader. Talk to me, I may have a job for you. Okay, I had circled that because free, you don't hide it. If you've got it, flaunt it. These people hit it. And if you want to do it, with a little classier tone, well, of course, we just add more syllables and call it complimentary instead of free. Next. The other important point about good ads is that they sell benefits and not features. So let's talk about the difference. This is actually something I saw in the back of a U-Haul truck. It's a picture of a dolly. Now, if I were selling features, that was the left panel of the truck. The right panel of the truck might have said something like this: how many cartons you could put, how much weight you could put on it, blah, 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 blah. Instead, it talked about benefits. So what do you think the right panel of the truck said? Benefits.
Save your back.
Save your back. One more.
Save time.
Save time. You guys must have written this one. That is exactly what was on the right-hand column of the panel truck. They didn't even bother with the price. They were just renting dollies. Okay, next. And of course, you rent the truck and you go to open it and you say, oh, I should have gotten a dolly. Run back in. Do an upsell. Okay, 20% of what makes a good ad is the creative. And what's important here is this is what's going to reach the lizard brain. How much time do you have to capture somebody's attention? And David, don't tell people.
10 seconds?
4 seconds.
2 to 3 seconds. You have about the time somebody going past a billboard at 70 miles an hour. Well, in New Mexico, it's 85 miles an hour. Okay. But you don't have time to catch their attention. They are not reading fine print, okay? They're going on their tablet, or they're going click, click, click with the mouse, and they're out of there. So you've got very little time, and here's where good graphic design really pays off, because it's going to catch the attention of that pre-rational, brain, the remnant from our early evolution. So next, I just want to emphasize that it doesn't matter what size your ad is. You can do good creatives at any size that will catch attention. Just some vocabulary. The vertical ones are called skyscrapers. The square ones are called rectangles or inline ads, and they're generally surrounded by content, by text, because it makes it harder for people to ignore them, because the ad is interrupting their flow of text. This is your standard banner. This is called a leaderboard. A premium ad often is at the top of the page, gets the most attention. That's a half banner, and the little one's called an ear or a button ad. Next. Okay, couple things that are interesting to think about. I don't know about your experience with small business, but in my experience, small businesses don't spend money if it doesn't work. So the point here is that 21.5% of advertising dollars, online advertising dollars in 2011 went to display ads. Now, a great deal still went to pay-per-click ads. Those are those text ads that are on the right-hand side of search engines, because people are searching for something specific. But that message is saying to me, businesses still think display ads work, and we would be seeing that pie shrinking, and instead it's expanding over time. Next. Okay.
Do you think display ads work? Is that what you think is best?
Do I think it's best? I think it depends
Most
on your
effective.
market. And I think it depends on what goal you are trying to accomplish. So for some businesses it's best. For some businesses a pay-per-click ad may be best. For some businesses a combination of the two may be best. So it really depends. For branding, you cannot brand with a pay-per-click ad. It just doesn't work. You can't carry across a message that anybody's going to pay attention to. So for branding, you really do want to look at some display advertising. For sales, it's going to depend, and you may want to do both, and you may have an intricate balance of, we're going to use a display ad in this website because I've got this kind of audience, and I'm going to use a pay-per-click ad because it's maybe more cost-effective. Let's say if you're trying to sell turquoise jewelry nationally, you might, then they're not coming to Santa Fe concept. Thank you so much for turning on air conditioning.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick, just to understand the click-through rate varies by industry. We already talked about the fact that branding ads will pull fewer clicks than sales ads, which seems reasonable. Most people don't realize a static ad will pull more clicks than flash. Now, some of that, particularly in Santa Fe, is because Flash is not supported by any Apple products and it's not supported by mobile media. Santa Fe has, I think, a higher penetration for Mac products than any place except the Apple campus in Cupertino.
Wow.
About 15%. Every place else is about 5% Macintosh. Not here. City different.
You're talking to somebody who's been to the Santa Fe Mac users group.
Okay, so you know. Okay, so you know that could also influence what the statistics you see here. But the important thing is to understand that these are not huge cascading numbers that you see from display ads. Next. Takeaways for today. Display ads can be a very effective component of your online marketing. You can develop ads specifically for online use. Please don't reuse your print ads. Most of them have way too much content in them, and they don't read well online. 3, do integrate online advertising with other offline marketing activities. Do repeat your consistent brand messages. Do all the other things that you know how to do about marketing. And finally, the only statistics that really matter, no matter what I show up here, are your statistics. And there's only one statistic that's really important to you, and that's your bottom line. So pay attention there. Marketing is not rocket science. If it works, you keep doing it. If it doesn't work, look at something else or change your approach to it. I am available after the presentation today to answer questions. The books are available. I'm selling the Web Marketing for Dummies outside. You're welcome to download the PowerPoint, and I think they're making a video so that we will be forever archived on santafe.com. You'll be able to watch the presentation all over again. Thank you for your time.
Every day you go and watch a little video clip about me trying to inspire you to brand and market, because I know for a fact that if you spend a little time each day branding and marketing, you are going to have a more successful business. At least I think so. Alrighty, let's start. So we're going to do 3 things today. We're going to make sure you know what a brand is. And all of you have preconceived notions, and I hope when you leave here today that it's all the same, but it might be a little bit different. We're also going to try to get you to understand why branding and a brand is so important today, and today it really is critical. And then number 3 for you is to get you to understand that mind share equals market share, and we'll be talking a lot more about that today. So let's begin, let's have some fun. We are a world essentially driven by brands. Any of you not recognize some of those logos up there? The yellow arches, anybody seen that before? We had a few people last week that, thank you. So yes, so my question to you probably is that today, did any of you go out and frequent some brand in some way or shape or form, or maybe yesterday, or how many of you didn't actually engage a brand sometime within the last 24 hours? Last 24 hours, no brand? Sure. You're at the DoubleTree Hotel. All righty. So, next please. So we're going to start by asking a simple question. I want you to specifically name me the top 10 brands in the world. You have 30 seconds. No.
Cadillac, Rolls-Royce.
Starbucks, Nike,
Starbucks.
Ford.
He's doing good. All right, let's see if he's...
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola, somebody number one. IBM, Microsoft, Google, only been around since 1998. Okay, next. There's the other 5. There's an M word again that we would rush to the store to buy. That's pretty good branding. My final point again, if we can brand all those other things, we can brand you as well. Okay, next. So, been asking this question, nobody's got it right yet, but what is that?
Landscape.
Landscape, yeah.
Photograph.
It's a photograph, some flowers. What that is, believe it or not, is your brand. Doesn't that look good? It's beautiful. Shot at the right time. Flowers are doing the thing they should be doing. You got that blue grama grass. So this is brand identity. This is the perception of your own brand in your own mind. It's really nice, isn't it? As it should be. Now, next please. What is that?
Pixelated reality.
What's that?
That's the reality.
That is the brand in the mind of your customers. It's not quite as vivid, is it? Not quite as clear. What you think it is, there's a big difference in what they think it is. We're going to talk about why that is. There's some similarities there, but brand image is the perception of your brand in their mind. So there's various factors that go into making a brand. The foundation, which I'm not showing here, are such things as why you're in business. How many people are in business only to rip off your customers? Not many? Okay. There's values that you bring to the business. There's your core competency, the things that you're good at that you bring to the business. That becomes the foundation of the brand. But then you work really hard on your product. I'm sure you guys do. You work hard on your pricing. You work hard on where people can find your product to buy. And I'm also always amazed at how difficult sometimes businesses make that for their customers to give them money. And then there's this little area called promotion, where you share this message with your customers to come buy your product. And Little Apple, they just made the list this year, but I bet you next year they'll be top of the list. They seem to have a product that we all like, and a brand we certainly understand. So, the secret to everything you do in business is behind that red door. Different than that old movie Behind the Green Door, if you remember years ago. But we have a customer that you're trying to entice with your brand to make a profit, okay? So we can go with this door, or I can ask you right now, would you like to open door number 2? Remember, let's make a deal. We can just completely go a different direction right now, but I think we probably want to open the door, so let's take a look. What's behind it? It's your brand. And that's literally what drives the success of your organization. It's like the atom of your business. It's so small sometimes, we don't pay attention to it. You need a microscope to see it, but today we're going to give you that microscope so you really understand the significance and importance of that brand to the success of your business in the future. Next, please. So, I am a firm believer that you can brand absolutely anything. So let's take a look at Krispy Kremes. What is that? Sugar, flour, oil, and you guys will go out and find those donuts and pay a premium. It's the same sugar, flour, oil that's used in somebody else's product, but you tend to gravitate towards Krispy Kreme. Next thing, that little swoosh, what company is that?
Nike.
Nike, good. We're doing good. They use leather, they use rubber, they use glue, and they create the shoe, but they have the ability to convince us to pay a premium for those shoes because we're going to jump higher, run faster, or something, right? But it's still manufactured in the same way. Then on the far left over there, we have P&G's product of Charmin tissue. Okay, remember Mr. Whipple? Squeezably soft. That was a big step of branding history because they got us to really think about a commodity, which was toilet paper, and turned it into a brand.
Welcome everybody, I'm Scott Hutton. Hutton Broadcasting is my family business. We own 6 radio stations here in town. We have Blue 102.9, Radio Free Santa Fe 98.1, 107.5 Outlaw Country. We have Project 105, which is a rock station. 1260, which is a progressive talk station. They're very talkative today. And 1400 ESPN. One of our commitments to the community has always been to educate not only our customers and potential customers and friends and colleagues, but we try to educate also our employees as well about marketing, branding, and how to use your positioning to better your brand in the marketplace. So what we do is we bring in speakers. This year we have Jim Glover, the idea guy. Jim works with Fortune 500 companies on positioning their brands in the marketplaces. Very, very exceptional branding guy. And then we have Jan Zimmerman. Jan wrote Social Marketing for Dummies and Web Marketing for Dummies. I guess Social Networking for Dummies.
Social marketing.
Oh, Social Marketing for Dummies, okay. So she's published a few books. She's terrific. I hope you learned something. I have a commercial I want to play for you first that we play it on the radio stations a lot. So if you listen to the stations, you'll know this spot. It's pretty funny. That's not it.
Get it? Why aren't people buying our tennis balls?
You got me.
I mean, they're fuzzy, they're yellow, they're bouncy.
Oh, no doubt about it. We have the bounciest balls in the business.
If people knew how bouncy our balls
They
are,
would be bouncing on tennis courts from North Carolina to California.
instead they buy our competitors' clearly inferior
You
balls.
smack their balls a few hundred times and the fuzz falls right off.
And soon their balls are totally bald and barely bouncy at all.
What do we need to do to get people to try our tennis balls?
We gotta get the word out.
Word out, word out. Hey, maybe we should advertise.
Now, that costs money, and we don't have much money.
So yeah, I don't want to advertise until we have more money.
Which we'll get when we sell more balls and
Make some
profit.
profits.
So we don't need to advertise, we just need to wait.
For what?
For profits.
You're absolutely right.
Sometimes I'm so brilliant I actually scare myself.
Yeah, gave me goosebumps.
Can I see one?
Oh, look.
While you're waiting, your competitors aren't. They know something you don't know. It's called advertising, and it works. So get on the ball. This message brought to you by this station, the Radio Advertising Bureau, and produced by the famous Radio Ranch.
So anyway, with that, I guess we'll introduce Jim Glover. Jim, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Also, I would like to do a shout out to Scott Hutton, Hutton Broadcasting, and SantaFe.com for allowing me the opportunity to be here with you today. I really enjoy working with small business entrepreneurs. So Scott, thank you. I'm going to do that as well. Also, it's always a tough crowd right after lunch. So if you're going to nod, just sort of nod in a way that I can, not point at you. I have a question or something. Again, my name is Jim Glover. I'm the founding partner of the Idea Group of Santa Fe. We're a strategic branding and marketing company. Been around about 11 years, not nearly as long as Dave Haydick in the back. How many years, Dave?
30.
30. So I'm trying. I'm getting there. But Dave's got me beat there.
I started when I was 10, though.
Yeah. And we do a lot of work around the state of New Mexico. We work a lot with rural communities. We do strategic plans. We do branding. We work a lot in tourism. I also work with large companies, small companies, nonprofits. So you name it, we're pretty much there. Then at the start of this year, Once a Day Marketing is sort of my new endeavor. And really that was created. It's a daily video branding and marketing blog that was launched on SantaFe.com. We have over 200 video blogs since the start of the year that I've produced. So my hope is that